Hey guys, I'm Jessie, and today I am going to be attempting to give you a spoiler-free review for the new book, Babel by R.F. Kuang. This book, spoiler alert, I know I said no spoilers, but spoiler alert, I loved it. I gave this 5 stars, hung on every word. It could have been 7,000 pages and I would have been like, please give me more. I loved it. So we are going to kind of give you a spoiler-free gush as to why I absolutely loved this book. I got this book as an ARC on NetGalley. I was so lucky, so thank you so much. I will have probably multiple physical copies coming as soon as this book is actually released, which is very soon. First, we're gonna give you a quick synopsis of this book. Babel is set in the 1800s at Oxford. It is very much a historical fiction fantasy, very light on the fantasy. If you are expecting the Poppy War, don't. There's no gods and magic and stuff like that. There is translation, and translation is the magic, and it is amazing, so well done. But it is a very light fantasy. It is not epic high fantasy. So don't go in expecting that, because this is something different from R.F. Kuang. Very departure from the Poppy War, and I love that. So if you like a dark academia, kind of dark fantasy-esque, but like more on the magical realism side, this might be for you. Dark academia, historical fiction. We'll say that. We are following one main boy named Robin, and Robin was taken from his home in China by a British man when he was very, very young. His whole family had died of the plague except for him, and he was kind of plucked out and given guardianship by this man. Now, this man is not like a nice dude. He is really in this for his own personal gain. So Robin is plopped back over into London and raised by this man. But when I say raised, he wasn't like cuddly, lovey, like dad figure. No, he was raised for a purpose. He was reared in order to go to Oxford and be a translator student, and later on be a translator. Because the thing in this world is translation is magic, like I said, but you have to be able to be fully fluent in that language. Not like I am in Spanish, where it's like I can get around. You have to be able to, you dream in the language. That is one thing I always remember hearing, even when I was learning Spanish, was once you dream in the language, you are fully fluent. So these translators study things like Latin, Greek, and English, but then they also have their own languages. So like Mandarin is the one that Robin like really focuses on. And there's like a big emphasis on like the Chinese language and different like Asian languages in this book, because the others are getting kind of phased out. It's like they lose their power when too many people know the translation. It's very strange, but I really like it. And the way the magic works, we'll get to later, but it is so good. So basically, Robin ends up going to Oxford, and he meets these 3 other people that are in his cohort. And they are all kind of the outcasts, right? Because Robin is half Chinese, half British. Then we have an Indian Muslim. Then we have a Black French girl who is Creole Haitian. And then we have like a female who is white, regular, but very much like the top tier of society, but not quite, if that makes sense. But she's kind of the who is seen as like more passing, but she's still a girl. And they're kind of like, the only reason they're there is because like translator students are the only ones that are allowed to be non-white British men. So it's kind of a very colonialist attitude going on here. And that is the whole undercurrent of the book, is colonization and fighting the power, and I love it. All right, so now that you have my like rambly ass synopsis going on, we're gonna talk a little bit about some breakdowns. First off, we're gonna talk about the characters. I love the characters. The characters felt like real people. They were all flawed and imperfect, and they have struggles, and you believed it. That's a big thing when I'm reading a book, is I need to believe that these characters are people I can relate to. They can't be too perfect, but they can't be too, like, terrible unless they're the villain. And like, even my villains, I don't want them to be terrible, but even the antagonists in this book were very believable. Now, they were not sympathetic villains. Like, because you know, sometimes I love a sympathetic villain. These are not them, not sympathetic at all. But they're also not like mustache twirling. Like, they have what they believe to be their own reasoning, whether it's good or not. Spoiler, it's not. Yeah. But they believe that in their head. They're not just thinking like, oh, I'm gonna be evil to be evil. That just kind of isn't what it is. But they're also not sympathetic, but they're not mustache twirling. So I loved it. These characters really, really draw you in. It's a very character-driven story, I think. While there is, you know, like a lot of plot, it's character-driven. And you have to love the characters, but you also don't trust all the characters, and it's great. And we are following Robin specifically from a very young age up until through adulthood. So you really like Robin. He's fantastic. Now we're going to talk about the plot, because the plot of this book is, it's wild, y'all. So we have the first like part of the book. The book is broken up into different sections. Ara Kuang seems to like to do that. She did that in the Poppy War too. The first section of this book is a little slow. It's a lot of world building, setup, and like learning things about translation. So it's a little slow, but it still sucked me in. I was so weirdly interested in everything that she had to say. Even if I'm like, I have never been interested in this in my life, I was interested. And I actually really like that there are footnotes in this book, and they are so helpful. I love them. They expand upon the story. Read the footnotes, the little asterisks, like I read it on ebooks, so the little asterisk, you click on it, and it goes and it tells you this little story, like, and it's usually like part of Kuang's research, and it was perfect. It really added to this story. We get a lot of conversation about languages and how they developed and how they changed. And it's really, really interesting, but like, it does kind of take a while to get going in the first part of this book. But man, once this plot picks up, it picks up. It goes from 0 to 100 at one point and just does not stop. And because you are so invested in these characters, you will have multiple heart attacks and heartbreaks over the course of reading this book, because the plot just keeps going and it just keeps throwing you curveballs in one after another. And it's like, once Kuang decides she's gonna go, she goes. And she does it well. I absolutely loved it. The end of this book was beautiful. It was like, well, one of those beautiful bittersweet endings that you're like, I couldn't have seen it ending any other way. And like, you love it and you hate it, and it just makes you feel, right? It just makes you feel. You know, normally when I do these reviews, I talk about the romance, because most of the books I read do have romance. There's absolutely none in this book. Absolutely no romance, which, you know what, I'm down with. There are relationships. There are sibling relationships and friendship relationships. And there's like one moment of like a girl kind of likes the guy, but like it never develops. And that's actually a weirdly important plot point, like thing that happens, which is actually really interesting. The lack of romance. But the friendships and relationships in this book are top tier, because it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It is definitely a lot of like what real friendship is, right? You struggle. You're not two exactly the same people. And it's like, even though you like hit it off right away, sometimes you grow apart and sometimes you fight, and it's up to y'all to how you figure that out. And I really, really appreciated that in this book, because like we get so many different relationship dynamics and I love it. All right, now we're going to talk about the magic, which is so unique, right? I talked at the beginning about the translation magic. Well, it is really based on the things that go unsaid, the things that are lost in translation from one to another. So nothing is an exact one-to-one translation, right? Ever. Like, I know this from learning other languages, from learning Spanish. I will not say I'm fluent, but I know enough to get around and I can, you know, hear it. But I know that it's not a one-to-one translation. You can't exactly translate word for word. And it's those things that are lost in translation that make the magic in this world. And what they are is they're inscribed on like silver bars. So the silver is like a conduit. So silver is very, very important in this world, which is really similar to all of the stuff that it was based on, except for without magic, which, all of the historical research that Kuang had to do, like, and I know she attended Oxford herself, so like that even makes it even better. But it's just the magic. So you inscribe like, you know, the Chinese, because it was big, Chinese on one side and then the English translation on the other side. And when the translator says that to the magic bar, it is supposed to cause something. So different things in this world, they will take like these silver bars and put them in like trains to make the trains run faster and more efficient and on time. And they will, you know, keep their ice boxes cool and things like that. So it's kind of like magic, but it's like technology advancements in a way. So it's really cool. So it's not like blatant magic as we tend to think of it, but I love it. And I loved everything about this book. And it's so hard not to spoil anything because like I want to give a good review, but I also don't want to tell you too much and be like, bet you spoiled this book for me. So go read it. If any of this sounds interesting to you, dark academia, historical fiction, very light magical realism elements where translation is huge. The beginning is kind of slow because we're learning a lot about how this world functions. We're learning a lot about our characters, how the magic works, things like that. But boy, when it picks up in part 2, it is off like a rocket. And yeah, it's just, if it sounds interesting, go pick it up because I absolutely loved it. And it is a standalone. It is not a series. It is not a book 1 in a series, which honestly, I would read a whole series in this world, but like, it's not a series. It is a standalone book. And I really appreciate that because it's like, as much as I love my series, sometimes you just need a one and done. And I like that. But yeah, if you want to pick this up, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Because it's good. It's fantastic. So go pick up Babel by R.F. Kuang. And if you've already read it, like me, let me know what you think. Let me know if you're hyped to read it. Like, just let me know all your thoughts. Because this has solidified that Kuang is now an auto-buy-offer for me. I absolutely loved The Poppy War. Had some issues with the last book, but we won't talk about that. And of course I wanted to read her next book, which was this one, which is Babel, and I loved it. So this is solidified that she's an auto-buy. Anything she puts out, I'm gonna purchase. So let me know your thoughts. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys, and let me know what you think about Babel in the comments. I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.